Do you struggle with getting views on your Instagram stories or getting the people who watch your Instagram stories to actually engage with them? It might be because of the kinds of content you're posting to your story. Keep on watching to hear about the 5 different things you shouldn't be doing on your Instagram story if you want to actually get good engagement and therefore more reach on your stories. Before we dive in, I just have to say this week has kind of been an unusual one. Just for a little bit of insight into my process, normally I would like to film these videos like earlier in the week so I can actually edit them and get them ready for the following week when they're published. But it's currently Friday and this video needs to go live on Tuesday. This week has been totally full of figuring out the logistics of purchasing a van because in case you don't follow me on Instagram, which you really should be. If you aren't, my partner Dan and I have purchased a cargo van, which we are going to be converting into a camper van for us to travel around Canada in. And so calling insurance companies and figuring out all of the logistics of changing the ownership and getting the money and et cetera, has pretty much been a full-time job for me this week. So that's all to say, we're stripping it back. We're going back to basics with this video today. I've got some good content for you, but we are just going to keep this straightforward, fun, 2011 style Katie video. We're just going to talk, you and me. So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for the fancy B-roll and the different scene changes and stuff like that, but that's not going to be part of today's video. Before we talk about the different kinds of content that you should stop making for the sake of your Instagram story strategy, I just want to explain a really basic part of what I call the story algorithm. If you've ever wondered how your views are determined, like how do you get a certain number of views one day but then a different number of views the next day? Obviously a part of that is just going to be natural fluctuation with your audience, like some people just don't happen to use Instagram one day or whatever. But I think the biggest determining factor in how many views you get on an Instagram story is about how engaging that story is. I think the more DM replies you get, the more sticker taps you get, the more engagements you get on a story, the more likely it is that Instagram will take your little bubble and put it to the front of the line for the rest of your followers. I always find that when I make an Instagram story post earlier in the day and I get a bunch of DM replies or I get people voting on a poll or whatever, I will almost always end up getting more views on that story that day than if I didn't get that engagement. I've really seen a big correlation there. And so that's why all the tips that I'm about to share are important, because the number of views you get on your Instagram story is not some kind of random, well, maybe to some extent it is, but the way that you control the number of views you get on your Instagram story is by making it more interesting and engaging. And the types of posts that I'm going to walk you through in a minute here are the kinds of posts that are less engaging and make people click off, leave the app, close stories. And when those actions happen, Instagram is not going to be showing your story to the rest of your followers. That's kind of a roundabout way of saying it's important that your stories are engaging because that's going to help you get more reach. So now that that's on the table, let's talk about the first type of post that you need to stop making on your story because it is ruining your engagement and reach. And that is videos without captions. You guys know that I harp on about this all of the time, but seriously, if you are still making video clips on your Instagram stories and you are not writing out a description of what you are saying, I don't know how you've been watching this channel so long and still not doing that. People are not going to know what you're saying. They're going to be watching a silent video of you going, and they're going to skip past it because it's meaningless. You have to remember that most people are not watching Instagram stories with the audio. So if you want to be providing any kind of value to those folks at all, you need to make sure that you're captioning your videos. It just takes a couple extra seconds. You don't have to write it out word for word. Just make sure that you get the meaning across in the text and you'll be good to go. The second thing you need to take out of your Instagram story content plan is also video related, and it is posting like 16 clips in a row of you just talking to the camera. Don't get me wrong, it's so important to speak directly to the camera, talk to your followers, caption it like I was just saying, and ideally do that every day. So people are seeing you, they're hanging out with you on Instagram daily. However, you really need to work on becoming more concise because there's nothing that makes me skip out of Instagram stories faster than a ton of little dots along the top of the screen, and all of them are somebody just talking to the camera. Even if they do have captions, I'm still probably gonna skip. It's just too long. It's too long for the kind of format that it is. I personally try to keep my daily Instagram story to 8 different slides or less. And maybe I would make 4 to 6 of those videos, but then I would try to have some images interspersed so that it's not just a ton of videos all in a row. I mean, think about it from this perspective. If you were going through Instagram stories and watching other people's content, would you want to watch like 5 minutes of video from one person on their story? No, you would skip past it. So hold that same standard for the content that you're making yourself, and that's going to help you keep people engaged much longer. So instead of posting just a huge long video, get more concise, say what you want to say in 1 minute instead of 5 minutes, and then make sure that you switch things up between clips of you talking by showing photos or imagery of other things. The third Instagram story mistake that you might be making is using exclusively Canva graphics. Now, I'm not calling anybody out specifically, but some of you might relate to this. A lot of people that are new to the Instagram content creation game are a little bit scared of showing their face. They're a little bit nervous about talking on camera. And so instead of doing that, they turn to apps like Canva or other graphic creation tools. Just make really pretty graphics that talk about their business or what they're doing, and then they share that to their story because it feels safer than actually recording yourself. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely a place and time for really beautifully designed graphics, but if that's exclusively what you're doing, you gotta know that people are not gonna be that invested in it because there's no personality associated with it. It's not like they're recognizing a person, they're just seeing some graphics that might come across kind of like an ad. It's okay to intersperse beautiful graphics here and there, but for most people that see something that's like too professionally designed, they're gonna think that it's an ad and they might skip past it. I think that you'd be much better off including, first of all, photos and videos of yourself, but also to intersperse with that photos of your environment. Take a cute snap of your desk, of your latte, out your window, whatever it is, just to show something different and give people a little bit of a sneak peek into your life. It doesn't always have to be showing your face. It can be showing whatever you are experiencing, and that still brings people in a personal way. That's not just showing them like graphics or whatever. The fourth thing that you might be doing that you might want to switch up is only ever sharing images. I know I've kind of been going back and forth of like, don't only ever share graphics, don't only do videos, don't only do images, and it is true that variety is a really big part of a successful Instagram story strategy. You got to keep people engaged. If you think about it like as if somebody was watching a TV show or a movie, they're switching scene, switching frame, seeing this person's reaction, now that person's reaction, now we've got an establishing shot. Try to think about your Instagram stories that way. If you think about your Instagram stories like you're trying to, create a little mini reality show of your life, then you would think, okay, I'm doing this activity, I'm going to do an establishing shot of the location I'm in. Now I'm going to do a detail shot of what I'm actually working on. Now I might get a video of me talking about how I feel about that experience. When you think of it from that perspective, you're going to get a really good variety of visuals, and that's going to keep people more engaged. Back to my point about not only ever posting images, another thing that I wanted to say under this one is don't be afraid to share content that has text in it. I find that when I'm flipping through my Instagram stories, if I see somebody post a screenshot from an article, or maybe it's just a blank background and they've written in a bunch of text, or maybe it's a photo of, their environment and then they've written a text caption to go with it. That kind of thing can really draw you in because you're sort of curious. Oh, I wonder what they're talking about. Like, I stop and I pause and I read so that I can get that behind the scenes or that extra context. So that's just to say, don't be afraid to include something with slightly longer text here and there, because especially if you don't do it all of the time, people are more likely to pause, take a second to actually read through it, and maybe even respond to your story. Okay, I feel like we've covered a lot of different things, so we're trying to go for variety. That's the biggest message here. We're trying to vary things so that people will stop just flipping through at lightning speed and actually see what you've created and engage with it. That's kind of the overall message of these past 4 tips. But the fifth one that I want to talk about is more of an abstract or intangible tip. And basically what it is to try to avoid creating stories that come across as like unprofessional or not very well thought out. This is more of a smattering of a couple different things that I notice when I'm flipping through Instagram stories that I would say, if you find yourself doing these things, you might want to stop because like it just doesn't look good. The first thing is zooming in your text way too big. The number one sign to me of like an amateur Instagram story creator is somebody who makes the text just massive over the entire screen. So unnecessary. That's like font size 50. People can read font that's a lot smaller than that. So just try to have a general sense of design and balance and like make sure that you're not making the text way bigger than it needs to be. Another mistake that I see sometimes is people posting an image that's not full 9:16 aspect ratio, and so it doesn't really fill the screen and therefore it doesn't look as cute. It doesn't look like it was intended for Instagram stories. So just make sure you shoot your content in the correct aspect ratio or you zoom in on your images so you don't have those weird bars. Another mistake I see amateurs making is placing stickers in parts of the screen where users can't actually interact with them. So if you're making your poll too close to the left or right of the screen, when someone tries to vote, they're actually going to be skipping to the next story or going back. If you put stickers too low on the screen, then when people try to tap them, they'll just end up replying to your story. So just keep all those different locations in mind and just make sure that all of your interactive features are in places where people can actually tap them. Really, this fifth tip is just about experiencing Instagram stories, watching other people's stories, see what the trends are, see what makes things more easy to interact with, and then try to apply those strategies on your own content instead of just going in blind and making whatever you want. I mean, it's good to make whatever you want, but I hope you know what I mean, that part of being able to create content that is engaging is being aware of your own habits and behaviors, figuring out what you find engaging, and then using that information in order to make engaging content yourself. Okay, I hope you found this little list helpful. This was a bit more of a casual and chill video, and I always aim to make these shorter and more concise, and here I am, I've been filming for 20 minutes, and where does the time go? If you have any other Instagram story faux pas or mistakes or things that you have noticed lead to less engagement, definitely leave them in the comments below and we can kind of crowdsource it. We can collect our information in one place and give each other some advice. If you want to keep learning more about Instagram strategy, then check out this playlist all about how to increase your engagement. Before you go watch those videos though, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future videos. And as always, thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next one. Bye!